Hi everyone, I'm Mackenzie Horn, and today I'll be discussing whether or not kids should play tackle football due to the severely high risk of concussions and head trauma. Football is a very popular sport. It's fun to watch, fun to play, and attracts many viewers and fans. However, there is a great risk that comes with participating in this sport, this risk being head trauma. A person who has experienced head trauma may have lifelong effects that can even be fatal. Because of this, parents should be very aware of the hazards surrounding tackle football and maybe even avoid it as a whole. I'd like to start off first by showing a few pictures. This is a normal brain versus one that has CTE. CTE stands for chronic traumatic encephalopathy. I'll talk a little bit more about what CTE is later, but as you can see, the brain is very deteriorated, and of course, this would have a negative effect on its functioning. A few years ago, I recall watching a movie titled Concussion. This movie is based off a true story and shows the severity of the effects of football-related head trauma. A man named Glenn Kinney wrote a movie review and summary on RogerEbert.com over the movie Concussion. In his review, he covered main points of the movie. The movie focuses on a former NFL player who played for the Pittsburgh Steelers named Mike Webster. Webster throughout the movie was shown many times losing his mind, having memory loss, going insane, having mood swings, and being very angry. One of Webster's teammates was present in the movie as well, having similar symptoms. Both of them were confused and questioning how they got in this shape. When Mike Webster passed away at the young age of 50, Dr. Omalu was the one who performed his autopsy. When doing his thorough examination, Omalu came to the discovery of a new brain disorder, one that had never been discovered before. He called this brain disorder chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE for short. This is the same one that was present in the picture that I showed you before. As Kinney states in his synopsis, Omalu figures it out. The persistent head injuries sustained in football play shake up the brain. As the character explains, unlike some other mammals, humans don't have built-in shock absorbers for their gray matter and release a protein that builds up and causes hallucinations, memory loss, and much more trauma. Since this discovery, Dr. Omalu does his best to publicize this information and make it widely known. He thought it was very important to raise awareness for CTE and how it is related to the head trauma commonly due to tackle football. The news spreads rapidly, and eventually NFL picks up on it. Of course, they fight against Omalu's points because they are a huge industry making billions of dollars per year, and they do not want this information to destroy their business. This movie is a perfect example of the negative effects tackle football has on people's health. CTE is a real disorder, and tackle football is one of the main contributors to this disorder. For this reason, parents should be really cautious when making the decision to put their children tackle football. Some may argue that it is a great way to keep their children active, and it is a good social event. While this might be true, there are other alternatives to achieve these things. Is tackle football really worth putting your child's life and health on the line? In another article by Mark Hyman on Time.com titled Why Kids Under 14 Should Not Play Tackle Football, the dangers of starting football at a young age are further described. One of the first things that caught my eye on this article is the fact that Tom Brady, quarterback of the New England Patriots, was not allowed to play football until he entered high school. His father said that he did not want to put his kid in a situation to get hurt and have it negatively affect his future. The author of this article also co-authored a book called Concussions in Our Kids that pleads for parents to wait until at least the age of 14 to play tackle football. Even then, there are always risks for head trauma and injuries, but they argue that the body is a little bit more developed and kids can make better judgment at that age. The authors suggest that flag football is the way to go for children because they can still practice football skills without it being so physical. There are three main points that this article makes when referring to tackle football at a young age. Mark Hyman states that children's necks are less developed than adults, so when they experience blows to the head, it creates a more dangerous situation because there is not as much neck stability in a child. Another point made was that children at a younger age don't truly understand the risks that come along with tackle football. Once they get to an older age, they have better judgment and a better understanding of the dangers. They can then make a choice if they want to participate in playing football. The final point made is that there are many long-term effects of starting football at a younger age. Repeated head injury is repetitive head injury regardless if you're a child or not, and it can always have long-term effects. But starting at a younger age just starts the risk-taking earlier. This article explains the dangers of tackle football and raises the question to parents, what's the rush? Parents should wait to put their children in tackle football until they are old enough to understand the risks and their bodies are more developed to better handle the impact. The most interesting article to me was one written by Nadia Kuning for CNN titled Former NFLers Call for an End to Tackle Football for Kids. I found this so interesting because this is information coming from people who dedicated their lives to the game of football, and they are still raising awareness to be very cautious with it. The NFLers came up with the solution to play flag football under the age of 14. Once children reach the age of 14, they can then play tackle football. One football player stated that he started playing tackle football at the age of 9, and now CTE is taking over his life. Another player said that he did not start playing tackle until he was 14, and he will not allow his grandson to play before 14 either. And one player said, at some point, those of us who have had success in the game must speak up and protect football players in the future of the game, and supporting flag football under 14 is our best way to do that. The article then discusses how the brain disorder of CTE starts and says the best way to avoiding developing CTE is to limit overall hit exposure. And one way of doing this is waiting until a later age. This is a great message to parents who are considering putting their children in tackle football. Coming from NFL players themselves, parents should wait until at least the age of 14 to put their kids in tackle football. Overall, parents should research and be sure they know exactly what they're getting into when they sign their kids up for tackle football. As former NFL players have said, it is all risk with no reward when you start them at a young age. There is much evidence on development of CTE in relation to constant exposure to hits commonly seen in tackle football. The effects of CTE are lifelong and lead to death by an early age. Because of this, parents should not put their children in tackle football until at least the age of 14. Parents should ask themselves, is it worth it? Thanks for listening.